I use our bumper music, just my old days of being in radio where you'd be able to post.
Yeah.
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 What I mean by post is, you know what post means, Lieutenant Howe? Good morning.
I do.
As you're right. It's we used to do these little. We should do something. Do a post contest.
Okay.
I love it.
Yeah.
So you have intro time on a song, and in Top 40 Radio, you talk up through that intro time, and your job is to stop
Right before.
just before the lyrics before they start singing. Lieutenant Steve Houck is in right now, and good morning.
Morning.
So I don't believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't believe that there is any law in New York State preventing someone who has a concealed permit from bringing a gun into a church in New York State.
No, the state doesn't specifically restrict churches.
Churches may have their own rules, though, right?
And that's the thing that people sometimes get confused. I was just in
Right.
the doctor's office last week for an appointment, and there's a big sign right on the door that says no firearms allowed. So, and they're not restricted in hospitals either, at least not normal hospitals. They are like mental facilities. You can't have one, but just a normal hospital, they're not. But they can, as a business, restrict.
Do whatever they want.
Right, they can restrict access.
And I think you were seeing that, and even in Texas, you were seeing that with certain restaurants saying, we know there's a concealed permit you can carry anywhere in Texas, but here at this college or here at this restaurant or in this store, we don't allow it.
Right, and
you could do it. This is America. You can do whatever you want.
And we've seen a couple places, some states with these large venues, baseball stadiums, football stadiums, where they've restricted it. That wasn't too long ago. But in New York, there's only a couple places, schools. So that includes grade schools, high schools, even nurseries. That's that you can't carry a gun. New York State restricts that.
Colleges?
Colleges as well, right? So that's schools.
So the campus police, who are now police officers, they can carry, can't they?
Of course, absolutely.
Okay.
There's always provisions for that, right? You have.
I knew a teacher who used to come in with a pistol in his briefcase every day.
In state parks. That's it. So you can't. That's essentially the only three that the state itself says you can't carry here. But I like anything else, I'm sure there's provisions where there's somewhere along the way you can. Like I said, obviously a security can.
And don't you find it interesting in Mississippi, of all places, where I don't know that there are any gun laws. Apparently there are. And you know how these things happen, though, and we see it happen all the time with legislators. So who knows? Back in 1970. There may have been somebody in a church that everybody could conceal if they wanted, a concealed weapon if they wanted to, but some nut went crazy and shot up people that a gun that he brought into the church. So all of a sudden the legislators get together and they pass this law saying churches you're not allowed to bring a concealed weapon into a church. So that's probably why the law is on the books in Mississippi. So now they're trying to pass a law that says that they can bring a weapon in. I just find that surprising in Mississippi.
Well, it is interesting, and we've talked about this many times, how the laws vary from state to state. And I think that's just, it's indicative of the lifestyle that people live and sort of their backgrounds and where they come from. So, I mean, if you went to Arkansas and Texas, it would be not unusual. I was in Texas not long ago, and I was in line for barbecue, and I looked around, and everybody had a gun. I go, boy, a lot of cops eat here. And then I asked some guy, and they go, no, that's just you.
It's welcome to Texas.
Right, and actually they passed a law that says you must carry the gun in the open. So where here, New York says you must conceal it. There
it's got to be in the open.
Now they made you put it in the open. So it's very peculiar. You can go down there. You can be in line at Walmart, buying something and look over, and there's 7 people standing in line with guns.
Try that in New York. Somebody yells out, "He's got a gun!"
Well, and that was always right, and that was always the issue that law enforcement had, where they talked about people carrying guns in the open. Is how do you tell the good guys from the bad guys?
I know.
And not to say that a bad guy can't hide a gun, because obviously we know they do.
Yeah.
But it does make you a little bit more on alert. I mean, we saw an officer was just killed yesterday. Was shot and killed just on a training exercise.
What is really interesting is we have not seen these shootings in public until the last 10 years, and all of a sudden it's just become. I don't want to say something that's trendy, because that's such a trivial word to use for something, but it's almost like you have all of these copycat people out there that whether it's a shooting in a public place, a shooting at a theater, or a bus station, which we saw yesterday. What is going on? Why is this happening all of a sudden?
A friend of mine.
Question, by the way, we know you can't answer. I'm not sure why I asked it.
Well,
but,
there
what are your thoughts?
Actually, some police agencies across the country Connecticut State Police, the PIO for them, which many people remember him on TV through Sandy Hook, is actually a friend of mine. And after the initial day after that happened, he's never spoken the suspect's name ever again, ever publicly. So a lot of law enforcement are taking the stance that we won't say their name. We won't give the next person to think you're going to be famous. We just want to kind of go.
Because that's what it is. That's really what it is.
I really truly believe it's about, it's the Kardashian effect. It's you're famous for bad things, or you're famous for nothing.
But I'm all over. I'm
you're
everywhere. Everybody's talking about me today.
Right. And maybe these are people that through their whole life have felt anonymous and don't feel good about themselves and feel like, hey, I'd rather be famous for a bad thing than be anonymous through my whole life. So I don't know, not a psychologist, but I certainly think fame is part of it.
So I'll close by saying, how do you feel about yourself? As a now a retired, you're now retired.
I like the anonymity. It's nice.
Yeah, it's different.
Even though I'm standing with a mic in front of my face.
I think I'm still calling you Lieutenant Steve Houck, so I'm not sure I can stop that.
Okay.
What was it before? It used to be Sergeant.
Right.
It took me forever to get that down.
Actually, me too, because the SS, it was just rolled off the tongue of Sergeant. So I didn't want to, hold you back from the promotion, but I kept calling him Sergeant as well.
No, listen, I've been called a lot worse than those two things. So.
All right, good stuff. Congratulations on the retirement.
Thank you.
And we appreciate the update on this Mississippi deal.
Absolutely.
Certainly very, very interesting. Coming up, Dr. Richard how do I say Himmelfarb? Do I say that properly, Andrew? Here's the deal. Donald Trump, these comments, for the first time, seem to be having an effect on people, and his numbers are actually dropping, at least in Wisconsin. Is this something of a turn, or does this mean nothing like everything else has meant nothing? We'll find out. We'll talk to the doc coming up next. Christine with an update, 8:21.